an opportunity to take money off people is never to be turned down, really, is it? Wonderful to hear that so many people enjoyed other people's cooking on Saturday night. If you could stand up if you were part of the Guess Who's Coming to dinner on Saturday night. Everyone who participated or cooked or suffered some cooking, stand up. So the people, this is a test. You can sit down unless while you were eating dinner you thought, damn, I wish I was watching the rugby. Everyone who's still standing has to pay a huge fine. Thanks, William. And Gloria, I think you volunteered yourself to pay a fine for having your cell phone on, so I won't make you suffer twice. Yeah. What a collusion of incredibly important, iconic events for New Zealand. We win the Bledisloe Cup. Quite a lot of people here enjoy dinner with their fellow Rotarians. Some of us could admit to having forgotten the rugby was on, but I won't go there. So I thought, actually I started compiling my Sergeant's session when the whole topic of are you a genuine Australian and a Member of Parliament was in the news, but that I feel like that's been overtaken by a few other things. But anyway, I think we can make it tie up. So initially for this presentation, a nod to rugby. You can pay if you know the answer to this. Why have I got 45 and 12 up on the slide? Anyone know the answer? Okay, let's flip it around. Everyone has to pay. New Zealand, the All Blacks rather, have won the Bledisloe Cup 45 times in the number of times it's been played, and Australia's won 12. Who knew? I knew a rugby fact that no one in the room knew.
I thought that was your age.
Thanks, Tony. Much appreciated. And so, just on the topic of what it means to be an Australian and how that's changed over the years. Just thinking about Australian politics. 28% of Australians are born outside Australia, and by 2050 it's estimated that a third of Australians will have been born outside the country. Only 23 of their, actually I don't know how many federal MPs there are in Australia in total, but 23 of them at today's date don't appear to meet their requirements. You have to feel sorry for them up to a point. But interestingly, when the first Australian Parliament was convened, I think it was 1907, 54 of the 111 parliamentarians were born outside New Zealand. Outside Australia, and in fact one was born in New Zealand. It's not bad, is it? So I'd like to fine you if you have ever visited Australia. What about a show of hands? Who wished today that they would prefer to be now living in Australia? Anyone? Hands up if you've lived in Australia for longer than 12 months. Yep. Hands up if your children were born in Australia. Interesting. One of the things when I trawl back through the internet, there's a tremendous amount of to and fro between our two countries. Obviously, as we all know, originally New Zealand was governed from New South Wales. And there are all sorts of interesting facts. Early on in New Zealand's colonial history, a school was established in Sydney specifically for the education of Māori boys. And that was run out of, I think it was an Anglican initiative out of Sydney, and a lot of Māori families from up north sent their young men, particularly the sons of rangatira, over to Sydney to be educated, which in some cases was a great bonus for them. In other cases they died because of the illnesses they were exposed to when they got over there. So the connection between the two countries is much stronger than many of us realise. So I thought we might need to widen the picture a bit. Are you an Aussie, a Mozzie or a Australian? I made that last one up. So that's roughly the numbers. So I'm going to suggest that you pay a fine if you've never wished you could live in Australia. Interesting. Another test. Who can name three New Zealand politicians, well-known New Zealand politicians who were born in Australia? Yep. James Shaw. Oh, hadn't come up on my list. That's another one. Others? Going back a bit in history. Quite a bit, sorry?
Harry Holland.
No, he didn't come up. Savage was. Michael Joseph Savage was born in Victoria. And someone else said the other one.
Andy Webb.
Bob Semple came up. So Savage was born in Victoria, Russell Norman born in Brisbane a little bit more recently. And Bobby, yeah, but he went the other way, didn't he? What did Muldoon say? Something like it had doubled the IQ of both countries when he left. So for those of you who didn't get at least one of those answers right, if you'd put some money in the sunshine box, that would be great. There's a bunch of other people who are incredibly confused about their identity, or whose identity we would be confused about. Anyone know who he is?
Rugby league.
Thank you. Or AFL actually, and then I think he switched to rugby league. I'm going to find anyone who would ever contemplate calling their child Carmichael, spelt with a K. So if that's ever been in your mind, pay up. I want to hear the money going into the box. No, he spelt it wrong. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, who would do it? Deborah Mailman. Hands up if you know who Deborah Mailman is. What's wrong with the universe? One of Australia's prominent actresses who's been involved in a lot of founding of Aboriginal theatre troupes and is on a number of Australian soap operas as well. So if you don't watch the soaps, you're missing out on Deborah Mailman. She's tremendous. But she's Aboriginal Māori, actually. Interesting combo. Our own whale rider, Keisha Castle-Hughes, was born in Western Australia. Who knew? And of course, John Clark, Fred Dagg, who passed away earlier this year, wasn't it? Born in Palmerston North, but once he moved to Australia, virtually never came home because of his fear of flying. Australia's advantage. And Jane Campion. Okay, here comes the fine. Put your hand up if you know you've been to a Jane Campion movie. Not bad. What's the bet? It was all the piano. Put your hand up if you've watched a Jane Campion TV series. Less. So those of you who have never been to a Jane Campion movie or don't know how to spell Jane Campion can pay a fine. Oops, my graphics. And finally, that most famous Kiwi of all, Farley. Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Dale Jieh. Dale has kindly, as many people of Chinese extraction do, adopted a name that we can easily remember, Dale. Dale is the representative of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Affairs Office, which is, as I mentioned when I introduced him here not long ago, a colloquial way of saying that he is the Taipei ambassador, or the Taiwanese ambassador, but he's not allowed to say that, and no New Zealand civil servants are allowed to say that either, but that is who he is, essentially. Dale is married. His wife, Michelle, as the wife of a diplomat, kindly gave up her career and has followed him through many postings of increasing seniority up to now, well, not up to now, she's still here now. Dale and Michelle have two daughters. They are a globalised family. One runs the marketing for a large pushchair company in Shanghai, and the other is a television journalist, recently working in Hong Kong. Now, I could go through Dale's postings over the years. They are interesting, but not something that you would be able to remember. So I'll say something about what Dale's told me about Taipei and Taiwan, which is extremely interesting. Taiwan has only 23 million people, but it's got the 23rd largest GDP of any country. It's an extremely efficiently run place. They manage to operate by collecting an average of only 12% tax from each taxpayer. one of their tycoons, Jieh, who runs the company Foxconn, is among the wealthiest people in the world and has just invested another 10 billion in the United States. He employs 1 million workers in China alone, and gives you a kind of idea of the way in which Taiwan is operating. Dale's family came to Taiwan with Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalists in 1949. He has a Confucian background, and he finds New Zealand a congenial place that welcomes this kind of background. So welcome, Dale. We don't, for new members, applaud at this moment, but I'll hand over to the President.
Thank you, John. Would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Peter. President Peter, guests and fellows. It's my pleasure to introduce Teresa Thorp to the Rotary Club. When I met Teresa earlier this year, she immediately expressed interest in Rotary, and I think she's been to many of the meetings since then, so she's very keen. Teresa heard about Rotary through her brother, the late Peter Thorp, who was a much-loved member of this club. Teresa has enjoyed discussing my recollections of Peter, and she has told me that she would be happy to do so with other members. Teresa's professional achievements are extensive and very impressive, and I'm struggling to do them justice in the time available. Teresa has global tertiary qualifications from New Zealand, USA, UK and France. She has had operational executive roles in telecommunications, infrastructure and interconnectivity. Teresa was a senior diplomatic manager at the Commonwealth Secretariat, and following that, Teresa established her own business, CE Inside International. This involves setting up and leading a network of professionals to advise clients and beneficiaries on trade, environmental law and climate change. This involved over 50 countries, including 15 Southern African countries. Now Teresa is with Caritas New Zealand as Advocacy and Research Manager in what she calls her retirement job. I wish I could have retired at her age. Teresa is well suited to the International Committee, and on behalf of that committee, we wish you a warm welcome. Teresa will certainly reduce the average age of the club.
To Dale and to you, Teresa. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all into our club after your applications were approved by the board and then endorsed by the full membership of the club. The Rotary Club of Wellington welcomes you because you've shown yourselves to be worthy representatives of your vocations, committed to the ideals of Rotary, and are clearly willing to do your part to putting these ideals into practice. Since Paul Harris convened the first meeting in Chicago in 1905, Rotary International has gained a reputation for service that is unmatched throughout the world. Through your induction today, you're now full part of this International Rotary Service team and joining over 1.2 million Rotarians in over 35,000 clubs around the world. Our principal motto is service above self, and the objective of our club and other Rotary clubs is to encourage and foster such service. All members are aware that everything we do is guided by our four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Your proposals have outlined the expectations we have on your attendance to our luncheons and your involvement in our extensive ranges of committees and trusts. We'll do our best to ensure you enjoy your Rotary journey with our club, and we value your help in maintaining the robust standards our club has achieved.
Thank you, John. Thank you, William. Thank you, James. It's a great event welcoming new members to the club, and I have great pleasure in giving you both a name badge to wear at the club. They've got a star on them which indicates you're a new member, and existing members pay attention to those red stars and make people wearing them most welcome. And there's a pin to wear. And we all know the numbers of clubs and Rotarians around the world. It's millions and thousands of clubs. So this gets you into any of those and feel welcome to join other clubs if you're out of town. What I would say, as a member of the club and bringing new members in, you'll get a lot of value by participating in those committees. It's a great way to get to know 6 or 8 other people very well quite quickly by going to those committee meetings, and also give you a feeling that you're contributing in some way to making a difference out there. So welcome to our club. We love having you on board and look forward to spending time with you. Teresa. I forgot to mention the bedtime reading that tells you a bit about the background of Rotary, so welcome aboard. Thank you.